The former governor of Massachusetts, Deval Patrick, in his final State of the State address, said that your zip code determines your success in life.
Because there are children here in our own Commonwealth tonight whose future is still defined by the zip code of their birth.
And numerous studies agree. Our different zip codes determine which laws we live under, which law enforcement bodies interact with us, the prices that we pay for goods and services like insurance, our access to healthy food, and resources like parks and green spaces, as well as our right to vote and have our voices heard. The Fifth Amendment's Due Process Clause has been interpreted to mean that it is illegal to treat citizens unfairly, and the 14th Amendment clarifies this and states it explicitly in its Equal Protections Clause. However, our criminal justice system requires that a victim be able to name and identify the party responsible for their injury. And given the systemic nature of our nation's injustices, it can be incredibly difficult to hold individuals responsible and effect reparations or punishment, even after an injustice has been identified. Many of these problems started decades or even centuries ago. In 1963, when the zip code was first invented and urban planning was applied to our rapidly growing cities and suburbs, many systems were put in place which privileged certain areas and people. And as segregation and redlining helped to determine who would live where, those privileges, or lack thereof, were distributed unequally among our citizens, creating inequities which persist to this day. Though we can't always expect the government to single-handedly fix these problems, most of the tools necessary to improve our situations are already available to us. Here at Zipped Out, we'll connect you with direct lobbying and political action campaigns and help you to support effective nonprofit organizations. We'll show you how to protect your personal resources from predatory practices and improve your access to community resources. The Zipped Out web series will help connect you with tools necessary to effect positive changes both in your personal life as well as your community. We'll be teaching viewers how to avoid the penalties associated with being zipped out and how to acquire all of the zipped-in perks. We'll be tracing the lines that brought us to our current situation for different industries in each webisode, from the history of car insurance to the intricacies of redistricting. We use case studies, peer-reviewed studies, interviews with experts in their respective fields, modern statistical analyses, as well as historical primary source materials to bring us up to speed on how we got here. Then we'll look at where we are today. We'll provide a modern context and help you to stay up to date on where the government, the law, and society currently sit on each issue. We'll teach you about proper personal action. We'll explore how to best protect yourself and loved ones from the inequities and disparate resources afforded to citizens based solely on their physical address. We'll connect you with transportation resources, educational opportunities, healthcare resources, financial services. We'll help to protect and empower your vote while protecting you from judicial abuse, and much more. We'll get you zipped in. We'll teach you about community action. By partnering with members of both the Republican and Democratic parties, we work to both understand how our government is working and how we can improve it so that it better answers the needs of our communities. By working with both political activists and political insiders, we discover how to empower the voices of individual citizens and make lasting changes in our communities. Many people believe that health outcomes are a matter of choice and personal responsibility. They assume that government intervention can't stop people from making bad decisions with their health. And while many are familiar with the correlations between income and health, in the last 2 decades, an even more insidious trend has been found by health officials between our health outcomes and the areas in which we live. The zip codes which divide our counties and states are also a useful format for discussing the often glaring health inequities which exist between our communities. The way that we plan our cities, towns, and suburbs can help to ensure healthy outcomes for all of their citizens by offering them quality access to green spaces, athletic diversions, safe biking areas, as well as hospitals and clinics. or it can leave people without access and turn a social ill into a medical ill. Though benign neglect and a confluence of factors have led to the zones of poor health which pervade many areas of America today, we have the most effective tools ever for analyzing and identifying the problem areas, as well as the tools to fix those problems. In the first episode of Zipped Out, we'll discover how our water treatment system came to be, who's currently in charge of it, and how to hold them accountable to make sure that you get the cleanest water around. Our nation's public schools are in dire straits. Besieged on all sides by administrative failings, expectant parents, and competing educational resources, they're fighting to stay afloat. The resources which fund our nation's public schools are pulled directly from the property taxes paid in each zip code. And due to the widely different values of property in the United States, each school, and by extension each child, receives drastically different funding, resources, and attention from our public school system. Low-income communities face the brunt of this disparity, and many people believe that if you are living in a low-income community, then you are doomed to suffer from poor educational offerings. But that is no longer true. Today, the same schools that compete for resources with public schools can also be avenues of success for many young people living in impoverished circumstances. The same administrations whose dysfunctions harm our schools can be brought to task and held accountable by a more informed public. The parents whose worries have been ignored and brushed aside can finally have their voices heard and expectations met by our public school system and elected officials. In the second episode of Zipped Out, we examine the history of public education, the current choices that are offered to parents, from public schools to charter schools and everything in between, and we help you use the tools available to choose the school that's best for you, and if you're inspired, to improve your school system for everyone else. For over 2 centuries in America, redistricting, or gerrymandering as it's affectionately labeled, has been a powerful tool for lawmakers on both sides of the aisle looking to divide or misrepresent the votes of their states and districts to their own advantage. Ensuring an equal opportunity to vote for its citizens has been a major difficulty for the United States as it has slowly enfranchised all of its citizens with its constitutionally mandated rights and protections. Many people believe that this problem of politicians using demographic data and mathematics to redraw favorable districts cannot be stopped or regulated with integrity. They point to the bipartisan attempts at voter suppression and exclusion and observe that the Voting Rights Act has become steadily weaker as its cracks and loopholes have been explored since its inception in 1965. In Episode 3 of Zipped Out, we'll explore the political universe and the basics of election mathematics. Then we'll look at which zip code has the strongest vote in America, whose votes didn't change anything, and how to multiply the power of your vote so that you can become an advocate for your beliefs and change your community for the better. Many people believe that though the court system is not perfect overall, the jury system of America is one of our crowning achievements. In 2017, any adult with their full mental faculties can serve on a jury to determine the guilt or innocence of their fellow citizens in the court of law. But the path to where we are today was fraught with obstacles. Landless tenants, women, and minorities gained the right to sit on juries only in the last century, and there are still many roadblocks in place to full jury participation. In Episode 4 of Zipped Out, we'll explore how jury pools themselves are pulled from varying government records, which introduces a statistical bias into the jury pool system from the outset. We'll look at voir dire, a process by which jurors are disqualified, but which includes opportunities for discriminatory exclusions. We'll look at state practices for compensating jurors for the time they spend away from work, which de-incentivizes lower-income individuals from serving on juries. And we'll take a look at jury consulting, the paid practice by which lawyers offer to help create the perfect jury, to ensure a victory regardless of the facts. We'll show you some of the zip codes where you're more likely to have a diverse jury and what you can do to ensure that if you do have a criminal or civil case that you're a part of, it's being judged by a fair, impartial, and diverse jury. Welcome to Zipped Out.